Before you get seated, if you have a pillow anywhere near you or a towel, I recommend keeping those near you today. We're going to do a fully seated practice, so a little bit more of a restorative practice. You don't need either of these things, but if you'd like them, a pillow or a towel might be helpful for your practice today. Once you have them, once again, just meeting on your back. Laying on your back, letting the earth cradle you, sinking deep into the floor and mat beneath you. Palms are facing up, ready to receive, like a plant craving sunlight. Maybe bringing some attention to the parts of our body that are touching the earth beneath us. So relaxing the shoulder blades a little bit more into the floor. Relaxing the pelvis, the heels of the feet. I'm going to go ahead and get started now. So staying in Shavasana, I'm going to invite everyone to bring one hand to their heart space and one hand to their lower belly. And just start to observe the breath, taking full deep belly breaths in through the nose, letting the belly expand out, exhaling out of the nose as the belly contracts. Taking this moment to get centered on your mat today, releasing any pressures or to-do lists for the next 45 minutes of our practice. Instead, just observing the breath, observing your own body, your own emotions, your own thoughts, releasing any pressure or anxieties. After a very emotionally draining and just emotional week, I thought that it could be really useful to have a nice gentle practice this morning to refill our cups, to recharge our batteries so that we can show up in the world in a way that we'd like to. So let's just really take this practice this morning to give ourselves what we need. And while your hands are on your heart and your tummy, I'm going to invite yourself to ask yourself a very, very important question. That question is, what is it that I need? This could be, what is it that I need today? What is it that I need this week? What is it that I need in this friendship or relationship? Or what is it that I need to change? Whatever it is, your intuition knows best. Just listening to yourself and really giving yourself the space to check in with yourself right now. Breathing into that, whatever emotion or feeling is coming up. Continuing to focus on the breath. And if it's an emotion that you're craving, something like peace or gratitude, I invite you to welcome that into your heart right now. Before we start our practice, just setting that intention of calling that emotion in. If it's an action that you need or something external, maybe reframing it or digging a little bit deeper to realize what emotion is underlying that need. Is it safety and security? Is it trust? Is it unconditional love? Whatever it is, welcoming it, that emotion or feeling into your heart space and gifting it to yourself right now. And continuing to gift that feeling, that craving to yourself throughout your practice today. I invite you to gently start to flutter the eyes open if they were closed, bringing the hands back towards your sides. I'm going to invite you to bring the knees into your chest. Maybe using both hands to draw little circles on the ceiling above you, giving your lower back a nice massage. And then bringing your right hand up above your head and rolling onto the right side of your body. So creating a bit of a pillow with that right bicep. Taking a moment here. The vagus nerve is this large nerve on the right side of your body. That just laying on it like this, you can stimulate a calming sensation, as well as bringing your body back into regulation with itself. And when you're ready, pressing both hands into the mat, pressing yourself up into a seated position. And we're going to start today in tabletop position. So coming onto our knees and our hands. Hands are right underneath the shoulders. Knees are right underneath the hip bones. And the toes are flat against the floor. So I'm actually going to turn so that you guys can see me a little bit better. So feet are flat against the floor, pressing into the floor. Hands are under the shoulders. Knees are under the hips. We're going to start with some cat-cow breathing. So inhaling as the belly drops, the chest opens, the tailbone comes up. And exhaling as the belly button comes towards the spine or head. Your chin comes to the chest, the tailbone is tucking forward. Inhaling as we drop the belly once again, opening up the chest. And exhaling as the belly comes up towards the spine. Taking a few of these cat-cows on your own. Following your own breath. Moving your spine however it is that it feels like it needs right now. And then I'm going to invite you to meet back in a neutral tabletop position, engaging that core. And we're going to do a few hip rotations. So just making circles with our hips. You might hear some popping or cracking, some energy releasing. And then rotating the hips in the opposite direction. And lastly, we're going to meet back in tabletop briefly to stretch out our wrists for a minute. So I know that a lot of us are working from home right now. We might be using a keyboard often, or just not be moving our wrists in the same way that we used to. So doing a wrist stretch is really nice sometimes. So to do this, we're actually going to rotate the fingers out and back so that your thumb comes to point towards the outside of your mat. And you're going to do one hand at a time, but really rotating the hands all the way around. The thumbs are going to be pointing out to the outsides of the mat, and the wrists are going to be facing the front of your mat. And once you're here, maybe if you want a little bit of a deeper stretch, you can start to shift your weight backwards, so bring your hips back as you feel the stretch in the front of your wrists. So just breathing into that stretch Maybe you sway forward and backwards. Maybe you just hold it. Feeling the stretch in your wrist. Breathing into that gentle stretch. And then rotating the hands back around to face the front of your mat. Our first asana of the day is going to be balasana, or child's pose. So we're going to stay in tabletop. We're going to bring our knees out to the sides of the mat as our toes come to kiss behind us. So the big toes can be touching, or you can have one on top of the other. And then we're going to gently press our hips back to sit on our feet as our belly comes to the middle of our mat or in between our legs. And we want to bring our heart space down to the floor as well as our forehead. You can either keep your arms up in front of you for extended child's pose, or you can bring both hands behind you, so like to your sides. Maybe just to rest on the thighs, hands against the floor. I want to encourage everyone to press their forehead into the mat here. So really creating a little inner haven or inner world. A time to get comfortable with yourself. If you have a pillow nearby, no pressure if you don't, but you also I want to give everyone the option to bring that pillow to the center of your mat. And you can actually rest your head on the pillow. So maybe you turn your head to the side if you do have a pillow. And again, either keeping those arms out in front of you or to your sides behind you. Taking a moment here in this asana to get really comfortable with your own little safe space, your own little inner haven, with your own thoughts. Chest is pressing down to the floor, hips are sinking onto the heels behind you. I invite you to mentally affirm here after me. I relax from outer involvement into my inner haven of peace. If you are using a pillow here, I'm going to invite you to lift your head and turn to face the other way now so that you get that neck stretch on both sides. If you aren't using a pillow and your head is pressed towards the floor, and maybe you're in extended child's pose, maybe take a moment to walk your fingers out a little bit deeper. Really reaching to bring your heart space towards the ground, feeling the groundedness as your forehead presses against the mat. Breathing deep into the lower belly here. Maybe feeling the belly expand and contract on your legs. Now I'll invite you to mentally affirm one more time with me. I relax from outer involvement into my inner haven of peace. Taking one more deep belly breath here, maybe letting it go out of your mouth. And if your hands are out in front of you or back behind you, bringing them underneath the shoulders and gently pressing ourselves back up to a tabletop position. From here, we're going to come all the way onto our bellies for Bhujangasana or Cobra pose. So on our bellies, the tops of the feet are pressing into the floor beneath us. And maybe we're laying on one cheek so that we can see the computer or phone. The hands can come right underneath the shoulders, and you want to hug those elbows and arms into your sides. We're going to stay really grounded in the lower part of our body here. So pressing into the tops of the feet, the thighs, the pelvis bone. We're going to inhale to really ground through those parts of the body. And on the exhale now, I'm going to invite everyone to press their chest up off the floor. So opening the chest, gaze is going to stay towards the front of your mat or the front of the room. You're really engaging that core, pressing the pelvis into the floor as you lift the chest. Be conscious of your neck, that you're not jackknifing your neck, meaning you're not looking up towards the ceiling here, but you're really finding a long, straight spine with a nice lower back bend as you engage the core. And it's up to you whether you press into the hands to lift yourself up more or stay, maybe keeping the forearms on the floor. Breathing deep into the lower belly here. I invite you to mentally affirm after me, I rise joyfully to meet each new opportunity. Taking one more deep breath, really feeling the deep back bend, and then exhaling to release yourself back to the floor. Maybe bringing one cheek to the floor or bringing the hands underneath your forehead in front of you. Taking a minute here to feel the energy in that lower spine. Back bends like that are great for activation, and they really build up a lot of energy, and just guiding that up to your brain. Knowing that that energy is going to be used throughout the rest of your day and your week. We're going to do Bhujangasana or Cobra Pose one more time. So when you're ready, start to bring your hands back underneath your shoulders, really keeping your arms tight by your side. And on the inhale, go ahead and ground through the parts of your lower body that are touching the floor. On the exhale, start to press up, opening the chest, opening the heart space, releasing the shoulders away from the ears, releasing any tension in your jaw, or noticing if your tongue is pressing up against the roof of your mouth. Really engaging the core, as well as feeling a stretch in your lower back here. I invite you to mentally affirm after me, I rise joyfully to meet each new opportunity. Taking one more deep breath to really elongate out of the crown of the head. On the next exhale, go ahead and gently start to release to the floor. Maybe coming onto the opposite cheek or bringing the hands back up to your forehead, creating a nice pillow. Again, just observing the way that that asana made you feel, the way that it feels when you stretch your back like that. Maybe visualizing the energy that was just gathered in your lower spine or lower back, traveling up towards the brain. Gently opening the eyes back up if they're closed. As we come onto our back now for Jatara Parivartanasana, I'm going to change my angle for a moment so that you guys can see me a little bit better. But you can just roll onto your back wherever you are. So this is also known as a supine twist. But we're going to be starting on our backs. If you have a pillow, this is another asana that we could use the pillow if you'd like to. So keep it nearby. I'll give you an option once I bring everybody into the asana. But we're going to start by bringing our left foot up towards our sit bone. So bending that left knee so that's up towards the sky. We're going to shift our weight onto that left foot so that we can slightly lift our hips and bring them over to the left side of the mat. Then we're going to bring the left foot onto the right thigh. The right hand can come onto that left knee or the knee that's up in the air. So you want the knee that's up in the air and the alternative hand to be touching. And then whatever knee is up in the air, you're going to bring that hand out to the side to make like half of a T. We're going to inhale to really elongate out of the bottom of the foot all the way up to the crown of the head. And on the exhale, start to bring that left knee down towards the floor or the right side of your body. But we want to be super conscious that we're keeping both shoulder blades planted on the floor. So you don't want to come up off of that left shoulder, but keeping that left shoulder grounded and not forcing the knee towards the floor, but just letting yourself in gravity naturally start to inch the knee very slowly towards the floor as you feel a deep stretch in the lower spine and maybe even the outside of that left hip. If you have a pillow and you'd like to use it, you can just bring that pillow right underneath that knee. So this will make the asana a little bit more of a restorative asana. Feeling like you're giving yourself some comfort right now, some nourishment. Trying to remain active in that bottom right foot, so really keeping the foot flexed, creating a clear channel or a straight line for the movement of energy. I invite you to mentally affirm after me, I open to the flow of life within me. Breathing deep into the lower belly here, maybe using the breath to deepen the stretch. So on each inhale, you can elongate the spine a little bit more. On each exhale, maybe sinking a little bit deeper into the stretch. But listening to your own body and what your body needs today. Taking one more deep breath. And on the exhale, I'm going to invite you to slowly and gently, using your right hand, start to bring that left knee back up towards the sky as you bring the left foot back to the floor and pressing into that left foot to bring your hips back to the center of the mat, where we'll take a brief shavasana just for 30 seconds or so as we give our bodies time to recalibrate from that spinal twist. Letting our bodies engage in the squeeze and soak effect as the energy moves in and up. Gently starting to flutter the eyes back open if they're closed, to bring the right foot up towards your sit bones. Right knee is pointing up towards the sky. We're going to press into that right foot and bring the hips over to the right side of the mat. Then bringing the right foot onto the left thigh. The left hand will come up to grab the right knee. So alternative hand and knee placement. And then bringing that right hand out to our sides to create kind of a half of a T. Inhaling to really elongate out of the heel of the foot and crown of the head. And then exhaling as we gently start to guide that right knee down to the left side of the mat, keeping both shoulders planted on the floor. If you use the pillow on the opposite side, feel free to do so here. Really feeling a stretch in the lower spine, as well as feeling maybe your belly with each inhale, touching your thigh, or just expanding, letting breath go into different areas of the body. Taking a deep inhale, and maybe with the exhale, sinking a little bit deeper into the stretch. I invite you to mentally affirm after me, I open to the flow of life within me. Taking one more deep breath here. Letting it go. And on the next inhale, using that left hand to guide the knee back up towards the sky, bringing the right foot back onto the floor or mat, bringing your hips back to the center of the mat. As we take a brief Shavasana before we take our last asana of the practice this morning. So once again, giving our body the time and space to come back from a deep spinal twist like that, letting it engage in the squeeze and soak effect. Guiding the energy in and up. And when you're ready, we're going to come into our last asana of the morning. This is going to be an inversion just to get some blood flow and energy moving towards your brain. So staying on our backs, we're going to bring both feet in towards our sit bones so that they're about 6 inches away from our sit bones. Then I'm going to invite you to bring your hands towards your sides, palms facing down. And actually, before we press up, I'm going to give the option to use a blanket or a towel as a neck cushion. So if you have a blanket or a towel, feel free to use it now. And we're going to bring it just to cradle our shoulders a bit. And so what this is going to do is it's going to create this little corner or side of the blanket is going to become like a neck pad, the crease right here, so that when we press up into bridge pose, this is protecting our neck. So if you have a towel or a blanket, place it towards the top middle of your yoga mat, and your shoulders are going to rest on the blanket, and there's going to be about 2 to 3 inches that come up above your shoulders so that it creates a neck cushion. Then bringing the feet back to where I mentioned, about 6 inches away from the sit bones. The hands are by your sides, palms facing the floor, and forearms pressing into the floor. We're going to inhale just to get grounded in the feet and the shoulders and the top of the head. And on the exhale, I'll invite you to slowly, starting at the tailbone and kind of like a string of pearls, vertebrae by vertebrae, lifting the hips off the floor into a bridge. This is called Setu Bandhasana or bridge pose. And if you'd like to, I'll invite you to bring the palms together underneath your hands, or the hands together underneath your sit bones. And then one by one, roll each shoulder blade underneath you to give you a little bit more height. Breathing deeply here as you lift the hips up towards the sky, feeling all the energy moving towards your brain as your heart space is lifted above your head, and maybe your chin is tucked towards your chest. I'll invite you to mentally affirm here after me, I offer every thought as a bridge to divine's grace. Maybe you personalize that affirmation a little bit to yourself. I offer every thought as a bridge to my highest self. Taking one more deep breath here. On the exhale, releasing the hands and shoulders as you slowly, vertebrae by vertebrae, come back to the mat. Releasing the legs down into a shavasana or comfortable position for corpse pose. Maybe moving that blanket and instead, or towel, and using it to cover yourself if you'd like, or moving it to your lower back. Whatever feels comfortable for you, but just finding yourself in shavasana, where we'll take a few moments together to breathe and watch our breath. And I want to circle back to our intentions, or to that feeling or emotion that we were craving. So bring that back to the front of your mind. Maybe it was peace or safety. Maybe it was unconditional love. Whatever it is, let's take this time in shavasana to inhale that quality. So with each inhale, really feeling it come into the heart space and expand into every cell of your body. Envisioning that quality growing as your body marinates in it. And maybe with each exhale, we exhale any limiting beliefs or any negative qualities that are keeping us from feeling this feeling or emotion that we're craving so deeply. So really using the breath as a tool here to do some intentional breath work of inhaling those positive, loving qualities and exhaling the negative self-talk or criticism or anything that's holding you back. Just using your breath to release it. I'm going to give everybody a couple of minutes to do this on their own. Remember that you can always come back to just watching and observing your breath. If this is overwhelming or it just doesn't feel like it's sitting right for you today, or you can only do it for the first minute and then it's becoming too challenging or overwhelming, just always remember you can come back to just watching the breath, watching each inhale and exhale without control or judgment. But I highly encourage you to give it a try of inhaling and marinating in that craving that you've been needing, and exhaling the opposite out. invite you now to bring both of your hands, if you feel called to your heart space. And bring to mind a moment, maybe in the last few days or week, that you feel very grateful for. Bring it to mind and bring that emotion, all of that gratitude and love that you felt in that moment, into your heart space. Feel it grow and grow as your body just feels immense gratitude for that person or activity or memory, or maybe even yourself. Feel that gratitude in your heart. I invite you to do this so that we can just take a moment to realize that all of these positive and deep feeling emotions that we might sometimes be craving or needing when the world feels like it's getting hard or things aren't going your way. I just want to invite you to start to play with the idea that we can bring those emotions that we're craving into our heart space and to feel them, so that, as I said at the beginning of this class, we can use those things or use these tools to recharge our batteries so that we can create change, so that we can show up in the world however it is that we want to, and we can be the best and highest versions of ourselves. So while it's definitely normal and common to get really wrapped up in everything that is going on and hurting us externally, hurting our hearts, I just want to welcome the use of this tool of bringing these emotions into our heart space to recharge and refill. That being said, we'll start to bring some awareness back into the room. Maybe reaching our arms up above us, giving ourselves a nice full body stretch. Maybe bringing our knees into our chest, giving ourselves a nice hug, feeling grateful for our body and for our practice today, thanking ourselves for showing up, and then rocking maybe side to side. Once again, I'll invite you to bring that right arm up above you as you create a pillow with your right bicep, and then bringing your knees over to the right side of your mat, finding yourself in a fetal position, stimulating that vagus nerve, knowing that this posture too is a tool in your toolbox now, that you can do whenever you're craving some sense of security and safety, some sense of relaxation. Just planting yourself on the floor in a fetus position. And when you're ready, using your arms, press back up to sit maybe crisscross applesauce or an easy pose. Come a little bit closer. And I want to thank you all for showing up today and for joining me in practicing. But I hope more importantly that you all thank yourselves for showing up today during a time that self-care is so important and refilling our cups is really, really dire. I'm so thankful to have practiced with you all this morning, and I hope that you got something out of it and that you're feeling nice and relaxed and ready to take on your Monday. The light in me honors the light in each and every one of you. Namaste.